Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive. You guys sent in some fascinating stuff this time around.
Yeah, it looks like we're diving into excerpts from a text titled A Man of the People.pdf.
A man of the people, huh? Well, let's see about that. In this deep dive, our mission is to go beyond just summarizing the plot and really unpack what these excerpts reveal about power, corruption, and ambition in this world.
Right. We're not just looking at what happens, but how these specific moments offer insights into the society and its characters, like windows into their souls almost.
Absolutely. And speaking of insights, we get a pretty intriguing one right from the start. The minister's visiting Anata, and there he is giving this speech completely in English.
Which is interesting because the text mentions that he usually prefers speaking in the local vernacular. He feels the press always distorts his words when he speaks English.
So why the switch?
Well, he says it's because there are some strangers present. But you get the sense that it's a calculated move, a performance. Speaking English, especially to a local crowd, can project a certain image you know.
Oh, for sure. Like, look at me. I'm educated, sophisticated, internationally minded.
Exactly. And it plays into that whole dynamic of colonial influence and the perceived prestige of Western education and language. Even as he claims to prefer the vernacular, he's still very much aware of the power English holds in this context.
It's like he's trying to have it both ways. Appeal to the local crowd while simultaneously elevating himself above them.
Absolutely. And it's fascinating how the crowd reacts to him. They've got this nickname for him. MA minus opportunity.
MA minus opportunity.
Yeah, which tells us a lot about how they see him, right? Clearly a nod to his past as a teacher, but also a subtle dig, like he had the education, the MA, but hasn't really created opportunities for them.
So there's this underlying sense of disappointment maybe, or even resentment.
Possibly. And then there's that whole anecdote about Mr. Wage and the push me down and take my 3 pence joke. It feels like we're immediately stepping into a community with a shared history, a whole layer of unspoken understanding with the minister.
Like, we're getting a glimpse of these long-standing relationships and the power dynamics that shape them.
Exactly. These little details, the nickname, the inside jokes, they paint a picture of a community that's known the minister for a long time, maybe even seen him rise to power. And they're not just passive observers. They have their own judgments and opinions about him.
Okay, so let's zoom in on the minister's arrival in Anata. He rolls up with quite the entourage.
Oh, yeah. He's not traveling alone. There's his private secretary, who's got a BA from Oxford, no less, and hails from the Highlands.
Fancy.
Then you've got Mrs. Eleanor John, who's described as this highly influential party woman from the coast. Clearly, she's there for a reason, wielding that political weight.
Strategic allies. Got it. But then there's this young girl. She seems a bit out of place in this whole setup.
Definitely. Our narrator, Adili, immediately picks up on her presence. She's described as having this almost nun-like appearance, standing out against this, as he puts it, tough crowd. And then Andrew, his friend, just casually drops this bombshell.
That she's intended to be a parlor wife for the minister.
Yep. Because, apparently, the minister's current wife is considered too bush. It's a pretty stark contrast with the image he's trying to project, right? The educated, sophisticated public figure versus this.
Well, frankly, exploitative behavior in his private life.
Right. And it's just casually mentioned, like it's an accepted practice, which speaks volumes about the power dynamics at play and the societal norms that might allow for this kind of behavior.
Odili seems to have a bit of a conflicted reaction to her. On the one hand, he's disgusted by the whole situation, but then there's also this flicker of sympathy for the girl.
It's interesting, isn't it? He recognizes the injustice of it all, but doesn't quite know how to process it yet. His own moral compass is being challenged by the reality he's witnessing.
It definitely sets the stage for some interesting developments later on, especially regarding his relationship with Edna.
Oh, for sure. Speaking of relationships, let's talk about the minister's offer to Odili. A strategic post in the civil service, all framed in terms of making sure our people get their share of the national cake.
That phrase, national cake, it sounds almost innocent, but you get the sense there's more to it.
It's a brilliant tactic, really. It creates this image of a shared resource, something everyone's entitled to, and the crowd eats it up, literally applauding at the mention of it.
But later on, we see the reality behind that appealing phrase.
Oh, absolutely. That phone call with the Minister of Public Construction is a real eye-opener. £210,000 for a road tarring project. And who does the minister want to handle it? European contractors.
Because he doesn't trust our boys to do it properly. Talk about contradicting that whole national cake spiel.
Right. The hypocrisy is just blatant. It shows where his true priorities lie. Not with empowering his own people, but with maintaining his power and maybe lining his own pockets in the process.
It also makes you wonder what he's really offering Adili. Is it a genuine opportunity to serve? Or is it more about buying his loyalty in silence?
That's the question, isn't it? And it gets even more complicated when you factor in Odili's personal life, specifically his relationship with Elsie.
Right. She's working at a hospital outside Bori, and the minister's offer would bring Odili closer to her. So now you've got these personal desires mixing with political opportunities.
It adds a whole other layer to Odili's motivations. He's not just an ambitious young man eager to climb the political ladder, he's also a guy in love, or at least he thinks he is.
And we see that in these little moments of everyday life, like that hilarious exchange with his friends Andrew and Peter about food.
Always jollof rice with Peter.
Right, classic Peter.
Yeah.
But amidst this lighthearted banter, Andrew drops another bomb. The minister's actually planning to marry that young girl.
Which just adds to this growing picture of Nanga as someone who's, well, pretty ruthless. He's got his sights set on power, and he's willing to use people, exploit them even, to get what he wants.
Meanwhile, Odili's feelings for Elsie seem to be evolving, becoming more complicated. He mentions feeling jealous over her British air letters.
Yeah, those air letters represent a connection to a world outside of his own, a world that Elsie seems to be a part of in a way that he isn't.
It's like a crack in their relationship, a hint of insecurity creeping in. He's not just dealing with political maneuvering, but also navigating the complexities of love and jealousy.
Human nature colliding with political ambition, it makes him a much more relatable and flawed character, someone the reader can sympathize with, even as he makes questionable choices.
And then comes the night at Max's house. That's where everything seems to change for Odili. Chief Nanga's actions towards Elsie are just humiliating for him.
It's a turning point, isn't it? The personal insult, the sense of being powerless to protect someone he cares about, it triggers a real shift in Odili's motivations. It's no longer just about observing corruption. It's become deeply personal.
He even acknowledges that it's not solely about Elsie anymore, but about the insult to his own pride, his own sense of manhood.
It's like that moment awakens something in him, a desire for revenge, for agency. He wants to strike back at Nanga, and he sees Edna, the intended parlor wife, as his means to do it.
Which, let's be honest, is pretty messed up.
It is. It reveals a darker side to Odili, a willingness to use someone else as a pawn in his own game. And it sets up this really interesting tension between his desire for revenge and his budding feelings for Edna.
Because it's not long before he starts developing genuine feelings for her.
Right. The initial motivation was revenge, but as he gets to know her, his feelings become more complex, which of course only makes the situation messier.
So, fueled by this personal vendetta, Odili decides to enter the political arena. He links up with Max, and they start working on forming this new political party, the CPC.
And right away, we get this sense that the political landscape is far from straightforward. Remember that junior minister, the one who's secretly backing the CPC while still being part of the current government?
Talk about playing both sides. What's that all about?
It just shows you how deep the cynicism runs. It suggests a system where people are constantly maneuvering, hedging their bets, and looking out for their own interests above all else.
It also highlights this sense of disillusionment with the existing political order. Even those within the system seem to be looking for alternatives.
Exactly. And then you've got Max, who's much more pragmatic and realistic about the challenges they face. He's not under any illusions about how difficult it will be to take on someone like Nanga.
Remember that line where he compares Nanga's previous salary as a teacher to his current wealth?
It's a stark reminder of the immense rewards of corruption. It's not just about power. It's about access to resources, to a lifestyle that's completely out of reach for most people.
So while Odili might be fueled by this idealism, Max is the voice of experience, warning him that it's going to be an uphill battle.
And a potentially dangerous one, as we see later on. But before we get to that, let's talk about Odili's visit to Mrs. Nanga in Anata. Ostensibly, he's there to pay his respects, but let's be real, his real target is Edna.
And that's where he has that awkward encounter with her father, Odo.
Oh, that's a great scene. You can practically feel the tension. Odo's initially cold and dismissive, doesn't even offer him the customary kola nut. But then Odili drops Nanga's name.
And suddenly, everything changes.
It's like a switch flips. Suddenly, Odili is treated with respect, even deference. It just shows you the power of association, how being connected to someone influential can completely change how you're perceived and treated.
It's also pretty ironic, considering Odili is supposed to be challenging Nanga, but he ends up benefiting from that association.
It speaks to the complexity of the situation. It shows how even those who oppose the system can get caught up in its dynamics, how power can be both seductive and insidious.
Things really escalate when Odili announces his intention to run against Nanga for his parliamentary seat. He gets fired from his teaching job pretty much immediately by Mr. Nweej.
Who just happens to bring up that old nickname, Mr. Push-Me-Down?
It's a reminder that personal grudges and past conflicts are deeply intertwined with these political power struggles. It's not just about ideology or policy. It's about personal vendettas, about settling scores.
And the stakes get even higher when Odili tries to hold a political meeting in Annada. That scene where it gets violently disrupted is just intense.
It highlights the real danger he's putting himself in by challenging Nanga. This isn't a game. It's a fight for power with real consequences.
And those consequences become even more apparent in that disturbing encounter between Odili and Edna at her home. She's clearly terrified, and his behavior is just manipulative, even cruel.
That whole say please Odili 100 times thing is just you.
It's a low point for him, no doubt. It shows how his desire for revenge, for control, has twisted something that maybe started with genuine feelings for Edna.
Yeah, and then her father shows up with a matchet. Talk about escalating tensions.
It's a volatile situation, and you get the sense that violence is always simmering beneath the surface. But then Edna's sick mother says something really profound.
They are both white man's people.
Yeah.
And they know what is what between themselves. What do we know?
It's like she's cutting through all the political posturing and pointing to this fundamental disconnect between the elite and the everyday people.
Like this is their fight, their game, and we're just caught in the crossfire.
Exactly. It's a powerful statement about powerlessness and disillusionment with the system. It makes you question who these political battles are really benefiting.
Meanwhile, Odili's having a bit of an internal struggle. He realizes that his feelings for Edna have become real, that it's not just about revenge anymore.
It complicates things even further, right? He's fallen for the woman he was initially using as a pawn.
It also raises questions about whether he can truly separate his personal feelings from his political ambitions.
And those ambitions are facing some major hurdles. His own village publicly declares its support for Nanga.
It's all tied to the return of those water pipes, right? It shows how Nanga could use his power to deliver tangible benefits, even if it's just a temporary fix.
It's a classic example of political patronage. He's buying their loyalty, essentially. And then there's Counselor Couple trying to bribe Odili's father.
Nanga's pulling out all the stops to shut Odili down, even going after his family.
It's ruthless, but it shows how far he's willing to go to maintain his power. It also highlights the interconnectedness of personal relationships and political maneuvering in this society.
And then, of course, we have that dramatic confrontation at the public gathering. Nanga accuses Odili of betrayal, of trying to steal his wife.
It's a masterclass in public manipulation. He plays the victim, the wrong elder, and crowd eats it up. He knows how to work a crowd, how to appeal to their emotions, and turn them against his opponent.
But surprisingly, Odili doesn't back down. He stands up to Nanga, refuses to be cowed by him. It's a moment of real defiance.
It shows how much he's changed, how he's no longer the naive young man we met at the beginning. He's found his voice, his courage, even in the face of this public humiliation.
The election happens, and as expected, Nanga wins. But the aftermath is anything but peaceful. There's widespread violence, and even Odili's father's wife becomes a victim.
It's a reminder that these power struggles have real-world consequences, that people get hurt, sometimes fatally. And it's not just about the politicians. It's about the ordinary people caught in the crossfire.
And what does the prime minister do? He reappoints Nanga and the rest of the old cabinet as if nothing happened.
It's like he's completely ignoring the violence, the underlying issues that led to it. It's a cynical move, a way of maintaining the status quo and protecting his own power.
And that appointment of Chief Coco's widow to the Senate, it feels like a token gesture, an attempt to appease the market women without actually addressing their concerns.
It's a classic political maneuver. Create the appearance of change without actually changing anything.
And then, out of nowhere, the army stages a coup. Nanga and the rest of the government are arrested. Talk about a shakeup.
It's a dramatic turn of events, a complete upending of the political order. It suggests that the system was so corrupt, so broken, that only a drastic measure like this could change it.
It's also interesting how things play out for Max and Eunice. Max is declared a hero of the revolution, and Eunice is released from jail.
It's a glimmer of hope, right? It suggests that maybe this new regime will be different, that they'll actually hold those in power accountable for their actions.
But there's also this uncertainty, the sense that the future is still very much up in the air.
Of course, we don't know what this new military government will be like, what their priorities are, but at least for now, there's a sense of possibility, of a clean slate.
And in the midst of all this, Odile and Edna reconcile in the hospital. That whole thing about the letters being intercepted by the postmaster just adds another layer of complexity to their story.
It shows the insidious ways in which Nanga exerted control, how he manipulated information to his advantage. And it also clears the air between Odile and Edna, allowing them to rebuild their relationship on a foundation of honesty.
The excerpts ends with Odile agreeing to take care of Edna financially, to pay her bride price and support her education.
It's a sign of his commitment to her, to their future together. It's also a way of breaking free from Nanga's influence, of forging his own path.
And with political parties abolished, he's planning to start a new school in memory of Max. It feels like a new beginning, a way of focusing on something positive and building a better future.
It's a hopeful note to end on, even with the uncertainty of the new political landscape. It suggests that even in the face of corruption and violence, there's still a desire for change, for a better world.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are some of the key takeaways that we can apply to our own lives, to the world around us?
I think what strikes me most is how these excerpts really lay bare the human dynamics of power, the ways in which ambition, greed, and personal vendettas can play out on a grand scale.
It's a reminder that even in seemingly distant political systems, it's still individuals making choices, driven by their own desires and flaws.
And those choices can have ripple effects that impact entire communities, sometimes even nations. It makes you think about the choices we make in our own lives, the ways in which we might be complicit in systems of power and inequality.
It also makes you question what it really takes to create change, to challenge those systems, and build a more just and equitable world.
Absolutely. It's a complex and ongoing challenge, but one that we all have a role to play in.
And that's something for all of us to consider as we move forward. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll be back soon with more explorations into the fascinating worlds you share with us.